Significance of all of this with Special Reports' Brett Baer, who joins me now. Brett, what do you think?
Well, Neil, this is a big news day on a number of fronts. Obviously, as you said, the Assange thing would lead most days, but this is the president in this bailout to farmers, $16 billion. That is really significant. It's now up to $28 billion over the last two of these bailouts. You know that it's not exactly Republican ideology to be for this kind of thing, but the farmers are hurting big time as a result of the China tariffs. Now, in this news conference, the president said that China is paying for the $16 billion. Well, that's kind of like Mexico is paying for the wall because, you know, it's tangential. It's you know, importers take it on the chin with increased tariffs on various Chinese products, and one specific industry is getting this bailout. I'm going to have the Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, on the show tonight and ask him about this because there are some concerns, even Chuck Grassley from Iowa, that this is misplaced and may affect the market in the wrong way.
Well, it was a little bouncy today, as you know, and it's interesting, Brett, when we talk about tariffs, in the end, you know, you and I pay them, American consumers, businesses and all can try to prevent passing along the entire 25% price tag on this latest wave. They're not going into effect yet, but I did notice that the president referred to hundreds of billions of dollars that's coming in from China. To my math, I think it's between 35 and 39 billion on you know, the 10% that was in effect on other goods before these new ones kick in. Do you know where, or is he factoring out into the future the $200 billion worth of additional goods that are up for tariffs, or maybe the $300+ billion that could be coming? Where's he getting that figure?
I don't know. I think that is projecting to what could be. The hope is, obviously, on the inside of the negotiations, that they come to some conclusion, that they turn it around to optimism, and there is some hope there. The other issue of this is about planting, Neil, and the planting is still going on. Some of the wet weather in farmlands delayed it, and now there is a concern from Grassley and others that say that some of these farmers could choose to plant more soybeans because they sense that soybeans are going to get another bailout down the road, and that's how you make money from the government. So it affects the market in a strange way. So that's some of the question marks.
You know, one thing that stood out to me too, Brett, and came out of the blue, and maybe I was just not aware that it was in the list of items that he would raise as part of a negotiation with China. Huawei, this firm, of course, you know, has been caught dead center, you know, spying on American firms and snooping on top telecom concerns. They've been sort of singled out to not do business with, and all of a sudden now he threw them into the mix as part of the deal, hinting that they'd maybe be forgiven for that and continue to do business with U.S. entities. What was your read on that?
I thought that was fascinating. That was another very newsy part. I mean, if you have your Secretary of State going out saying that Huawei is a threat to the national security and that any Western country that uses it potentially could be spied on by China and give all its information through its 5G system, if you have the Secretary of State out there saying that, you obviously have come to the conclusion as the administration that this is a threat. But the way he talked about it, as you rightly point out, was that it could possibly be thrown into some kind of deal. We don't know what all the details are of that.
You know, Brett, you've been around there a while. You're a young guy, obviously, but the ill will and the tension between the two sides with the nicknames and the disparaging comments on both sides. Apparently, Chuck Schumer's just said some zingers in response to the president's crying Chuck comments, I guess. But it's particularly nasty, and I'm wondering, it's one thing to talk about we could still do business or whatever, but in this environment and approaching election year, I wonder if anything can get done.
I doubt it. I think if push comes to shove, Neil, the big things like raising the debt ceiling so the government can continue to operate, those things are must-dos. But the things that potentially could be bipartisan wins, like infrastructure, it's hard to see you get from point A to point B in this environment. And the president made clear that, you know, he made an outreach with this infrastructure. Nancy Pelosi really cannot have it both ways. The House Speaker wants to not have impeachment, but have impeachment. judging by her press conference earlier today. And I think that there's some pressure inside that caucus to go forward with, as the president says, the I word.
All right. Thank you, my friend, very much. Bret Baier, about an hour and a half from now, he's going to have the Agriculture Secretary, Sonny Perdue, on these developments and this help for farmers. But a lot of those same farmers, to Bret's point, are still underwater on a lot of this stuff. And they would much prefer just having trade with China than to deal with getting credits or special allowances or breaks. And it's also opened up the possibility that other groups, manufacturers, auto concerns, and the rest will say, hey, what you did for them, you got to do for us. So it could be problematic, but it's still early on here. We shall see. In the meantime,